Hey, what's happening? Benton here. I guess I need another one of these $8. It's like a little bitty tripod that unfolds, it folds up into a handle. And maybe I can show you. I don't know. Let's see. I can't quite see what you're seeing, but this thing at the bottom, it's starting to get wonky. Hey, $8. Guess I'll just buy another one. It's more or less disposable. Hey, what's up, Rob Cleveland? Good to see you, sir. So the title of the video of the live stream, be the content you want to see in the world, because looks like I'm not working today. Hey, what's up, Woody? Good to see you, bro. Shout outs. Yeah, I park on the street out here near the terminal. I don't want to reveal too much about what I do, but I guess I kind of do end up revealing that. It wouldn't be too hard to find me IRL if somebody was really paying attention. Yep. Oh yeah, exactly. What's up to Mr. Cleveland? Well, it's funny how I just assume everything's about me, but then I was trying to catch up on Yurt's replay, and it's like, well, it kind of a lot of it is about me, right? I think that's why some people have referred to me as a diva. Like, man, have y'all not been paying attention to these Leos? Look at Moose. Look at Moose. He's for a time was very skilled at becoming the center of attention. Hey, JT, good to see you. So I only watched bits and pieces of the Talcott stuff was interesting, but I only watched bits and pieces of the of Yurt from last night. He's doing a good job. I can see he's stepping up his game overall. He's working on it. Hang on, let me turn the other half of the lights on. Hang on. Fire up the APU to at least charge the battery. And the AC works, thank God, on the APU. It's the heater that stopped working. So I can deal with a little bit of chilliness. Well, and I've been observing, and I think that narcissism has kind of lost its meaning. But I want to get to the Talcott stuff here shortly. Definitely want to get to that. I find it fascinating. But as much as I do like attention, see if I since I'm here at the terminal, I decided it was a good time to cut my hair and get rid of my scruff. Yeah, he's very disconnected from reality. I agree, Ron Cleveland. Because I notice a lot of these things in my actual father, Mr. Benton, my dad. He has a lot of these same, the actual classical narcissism, which is rare, by the way. But society, as we've seen, has become more and more, narcissistic, obviously. But I do want to catch you guys up on where I'm at with the truck driving. So they tried to basically, I delivered Tuesday somewhere in Arizona to a retail store. And that's one of our dedicated regular customers. Yeah, Rob knows what's up. What's up, Lulu? Good to see you. New name. May not be a new name. It may be a name that I just was driving and wasn't able to see. Uh, so on my way to Dallas Fort Worth, I had a trailer loaded with product that's going to get dropped off at our customer, and then I was to pick up a loaded trailer to go to one of their. It's a distribution center, to go to one of their retail stores. And then my company, I guess somebody ran a computer report somewhere and said, "Hey, this trailer that Benton is pulling it's overdue. It needs an inspection, because it has the DOT requires an inspection once a year." What's up, Mr. Murphy? Good to see you. Yep, shout out to Officer Murphy, indeed. Uh, so even though I really didn't want to, I spent what ended up being 3 hours yesterday at a Love's truck stop about 80 miles north side of Dallas. But I've timed it to coincide with the rush hour traffic, which I would not have been driving in anyway. And then by the time they were done with me, I cruised on in Fort Worth because the trailer failed inspection. It needed 3 wheel seals and some bearings and wheel bearings, and who even knows. I'm not a mechanic. I don't know. But when I hear all of this, I'm like, okay, this is going to be an extensive repair. This is not like, oh, it's got an air leak. We'll send the mechanic underneath it and he'll fix it in 20 minutes. And we do have good mechanics here at the shop, which is very important, I think, for having these dedicated customers. We have all these old beat up trailers that must be, in somewhere near working order. I agree, Woody. None of we do not have an. I agree. We do not have an objective perspective. Well, yeah, see, that's the humans are lower on the food chain. But then is that where ego comes in? And then as ego increasingly, if as that term increasingly loses its meaning, um, don't I really need to kind of be in love with my own bullshit? And doesn't this need to seem extremely fucking important? Otherwise, why bother, right? Thank you, sir. My path is progress. Yes. Well, and that came from a long series of, from a long period of time spent figuring out what in the fuck is going on, which required me to swim through a whole bunch of not only societal programming and, the socialization process and the cultural context in which I was socialized, but also this, the Jehovah's Witness cult, to swim through all of that programming. Oh, actually, I'm not an extrovert. I'm, in fact, an introvert. And in fact, I'm one of the most introverted people there is. Like, I could just fuck off and be by myself. I've never been bored in my whole life. When I was a child, that's different. But as an adult, I don't get bored. I could just sit around this truck all day, even without the internet. I'm not going to necessarily get bored, although it would be nice to have some books to read. There's something to be said for the old tech. Yeah, there you go. My pathos is patience. And yeah, that shit does not come naturally to me, that patience. So, and I think that ties in with what I'm talking about here, because Benton, I could absolutely go pick up the loaded trailer and start driving towards my destination, which is what I would like to do because I enjoy driving. And I certainly prefer, because like right now I need to discipline myself. If I look at the screen too much, if the live stream goes on too long, what I've noticed is that I get really bleary eyed. So I'm trying to focus on looking away from the screen some of the time when I'm here in the sleeper. Yeah, amen. And this is the novelty. If you look at especially this, a lot of the stuff McKenna was saying, he would tie it back to novelty. And this, I think these experiences certainly are novel, or they can be. But then I juxtapose that with the people who live this 9 to 5 life, living for the weekend. They're kind of trapped in a little more of a narrow thing, arguably. And I believe I had a leg up by choosing to live in the streets for so long, and had so many novel experiences. If that makes sense. Uh, so if I can, it's like I'm telling 3 stories at once. I would like to be a better storyteller, but I'm just not. So thank you for bearing with me. I appreciate it. Uh, but since this is our good customer, and especially in today's truck driving world, for the company, the only reason my company is even able to stay in business right now is because they do have some really good dedicated customers. Dedicated meaning we work with them and we regularly, there's certain retail stores where it's one of our trucks makes that delivery to that retail store, twice a week or whatever it is. Now, my other companies may also fulfill some of those deliveries. Um, and some of these smaller chains, and again, eventually, if somebody was really paying attention, I will reveal enough information that people will be able to figure this stuff out. But some of these smaller national chains, as far as I know, this company, I think, only operates one distribution center. Now, I may be wrong, but maybe it's just this distribution center is for everything west of here. I'm not really sure how it works. That may be the case. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm just trying to, it's the driving part I'm actually interested in. Sometimes people are like, you don't know what you're hauling. I'm like, man, I don't really give a fuck what's back there, to be honest with you. Like, I'm driving. Like, that's the part I'm into. I'm not really into what's in the trailer, other than like the actual handling characteristics, which I need to know, but I can tell that from driving it. If it's really, if a lot of the weight's up high, then obviously that handles differently than a heavy load, but it's mostly near the floor of the trailer. That's a completely different thing going around corners. And I don't know how interesting the truck driver talk is, but I don't really have anybody else to tell this to. So thank you for bearing with me. So I get the trailer. Instead of going to the distribution center, I came straight to our terminal in Fort Worth, and then the number two guy out of the shop department, who's one of the executives in the company, uh, he was outside waiting for me because he's already gotten the alert. Hey, this trailer's coming in. This shit's got to be fixed, right? Stat. Uh, so I'm talking to him and I'm like, look, man, because these people don't understand that I work nights. Like these people that are in this 8 to 5 Monday through Friday mindset, I can tell them till I'm blue in the face, but they never understand. So he seems to think, oh, we're going to try to fix this thing today so Benton can go deliver this. I was like, no, I'm done for the day, man. Like I'm about to go park somewhere and go to sleep. And he's like, oh, well, I'm like, when's this thing going to be? I just need to know when it's going to be done in case I'm the one taking it to the distribution center. Because we have local drivers that on Monday, they can deliver the thing. But I'm going there anyway to pick up the loaded trailer. See what I'm saying? So if they're going to fix it this weekend, I might as well take it up there with me, especially to our dedicated customer. Because fuck the brokers. If it's brokered freight, I don't even care. Well, yeah, they do, but I'm not. Thankfully, I'm usually in the truck, Lulu. But I understand what you're meaning here. Do they keep you on the docks for long periods? I would say it's not. It happens rarely, but like 9 hours sometimes. That's happened before, like 9 hours. Well, and in fact, I showed up recently. The load that I'm trying to deliver, that's actually at our yard over here, and I'll get to that part of the story, but. I got to the customer at 1:30 p.m. And then didn't leave there until like 10 a.m. the next day. That's like 21 hours that I was there. But part of that I was asleep because they didn't give me a dock door by like 6 p.m. So I just went to sleep. That's my normal time to go to sleep. Yeah. So he's whoever, whatever his position is. He's more or less the guy that there's a shop manager over him, but he's also a manager. Who even knows these hierarchies? Humans and their hierarchies, right? Silly humans. But he's like, oh yeah, it's going to be done today, and I'm thinking like, well, based on what I know is wrong with it, I understand it may not be. And then we get into the people who work daytime versus people who work like me. They don't understand. These people don't understand. Midnight, that's my morning. Like midnight, that's the start of my day. So I fired up the truck. I stayed under 5 miles an hour and I crept into, because I can't just go in there on foot because the security thinks I'm trying to go in there and steal stuff. That's why I got the vest on, by the way, to at least try to look like a truck driver. Because the security gets woken up and then they're just in like a stupor and they don't know what the fuck. The guy chased me out of here on foot one time because I'd walked in there to try to see, could I even, because sometimes the yard's so full you can't even really drive in there. The guy was like trying to chase me out of there. It's hilarious. So I drove the tractor in there, and sure enough, there's my trailer, but there's a yard truck connected to it. So maybe they even finished it and they weren't even forward thinking enough to like disconnect from it. So maybe it's ready to go. I have no idea. There's nobody I can ask because I work starting at about midnight. Um, so I have the day off essentially. But I don't have to make this delivery till Tuesday. It's just a 2-day run, so I can do it Sunday and Monday. I'll still be a day early. And I need to set up my. I'll do a restart, a 34-hour restart. I need to set my hours up. The only way I'm able to work 7 days a week. So whatever I work, let's say I start Sunday morning at midnight. Well, whatever I work that day, let's say I work 8 hours total for on-duty time. That's driving and like pre-trip and getting fuel. So what'll happen is as each day clicks off and I start to burn through my 70-hour clock, when I get to the end of that 70-hour clock, at a certain point, whatever hours I'll work on that first day, I'll get them back at midnight. So they call that running on recap. So and right now my recaps are all fucked up because of this, all this craziness that I've been through recently. Spending damn near a whole week in Indiana doing nothing, only to finally get loaded and then receive a message. Oh yeah, by the way, you need to get that trailer inspected, which is probably better because if I had found out in Indiana, they would have had to try to fix the thing in Indiana because I certainly wouldn't have driven it from Indiana to here. with the problems that it turned out to have. Something about the wheel seals. I don't fucking know. I know that's serious enough where if all the oil comes out of the axles on the trailer, if that shit'll heat up and eventually it'll lock up, and then that'll be bad time for Benton. 70 miles an hour with the fucking all fours locked, or all however many tires are on the trailer. All eight tires locked up. That'd be a bad time. I've seen video of that. That doesn't look like fun. For some reason, a lot of these trailers, the axles are, the wheel seals go bad. I don't know why. If our shop inspects them and then just says, "Oh, it's fine," I don't know. Not sure what the deal is. So because of the hours I work and that I'm interfacing with people who work 8 to 5, like I'm losing a whole day, which is fine. I'll just restart my clock. If I can talk these people into turning on my personal conveyance, I'll go shopping. There you go. There you go. And I think that's a lot of what's going on. And I see a couple of people dropped off, which is fine. That's probably enough truck driving talk. Yeah, it's a good, show me a human, I'll show you a hierarchy critter. It seems like that's a lot of what's going on here in the so-called YouTube streets, which, as much as Paul is unslaved, is not a fan of that term. I think it is, there's something to that. And I guess that would go back to Sly Shy. Isn't she the one that came up with that? And, I'd like to still have Sly Shy around here, but that ship may have sailed, quite possibly. But I understand if people want to pop in and move on to other things. I certainly enjoy the streams where I'm actually driving, but I want to be around this weekend just in case. It's hard to know on what time frame does this company need this freight. So I don't know. We've been hauling a lot of these very similar loads, so I got to think they probably don't really need it right away. I don't know, man. Supply chain. Yeah, these hierarchies. It seems like that's a lot of what we're doing here especially people like me that have channels, or go on other people's channels, and then I got Yurt playing my content, which is great. I want him to play it, but there's a little bit of being put on the spot. It's like if I'm put on the spot and I'm here, it's one thing, versus now I'm watching myself kind of feel like I'm put on the spot, but now I'm not really able to. Now, if I had my laptop, I could just watch it for the first time, react to it. That's what I like to do. So I'm definitely going to be getting a computer very soon. Well, that's never going to happen, Woody. See, now we just get into just straight up personality conflict. Oh wait, let me read Rob's comment real quick. Well, I do say it some too, but I think there is something about tone of voice and context that I believe that the astute, and this is where the third hand information filters down and doesn't necessarily is not, then the nuance is removed. So I do use that term, but I tend to use it in a certain, almost as a pejorative, right? Or like a joke I'm telling myself. And so that's, we get into a lot of the actual human interaction, and then, being able to hear someone's voice tone and in a context, be able to maybe see their facial expression some of the time. Oh, well, that's the problem for me, is that, and I don't know if this is true or not, but my uncle, who's a judge, who's been an elected judge for a long time, he claims to have done the genealogy, and supposedly we're literally descended from Davy Crockett on my dad's side. And Davy Crockett's famous saying was, "First, make sure you're right, then go ahead." And if I know myself to be right, just whatever happens is whatever happens. I'm not going to be like, okay, well, I'm going to let myself appear wrong because I want to keep Sly Shy around for the show. Like, I just don't, once I've decided this is the hill I'm going to die on, then that's the hill I'm going to die on. And in my opinion, she's a little bit too in love with the whole auditor thing. Like they're, like in an emotional way, like they're doing something for the people. It's not, no, they're not. And most of them are bozos. There's a few, like I like that Press NH Now. Even he's got a little something to his character. You can tell there's a little something wrong with him emotionally, but his actual, the way the video is presented, it's well done, and all of that. Thank you, JT. That's well, I mean, that's a close race sometimes, but much appreciated. It's nice to get a few things out of the my harsh upbringing, in which I was in it. Look, I'm not. It's fine that I got a spanking almost pretty much every day, effectively, but that was part of it. Is the child will say "sir" and "ma'am." Period. Hey, there you go. Nice, Lulu. Much appreciated. Well, and then back to what I've said. The fact is, pretty much any time I go live, it's a minimum of 10 people. It's 11. Oh, I'm not even one of the 11 right now, so it's 12. Um, I'm happy with that. And then 100 views, pretty much minimum. Uh, how much attention do I need, right? And this is what I was trying to tell EBT, is it's the larger the channel, the more people in the live stream, the more the views. Necessarily, the content will begin to appeal to the lowest common denominator, which sounds bad, right? Oh, lowest common denominator. No, that means that's the thing that most of the audience has in common at the lowest level, right? So, because the higher up you go in level, the less people are going to have that thing. Versus now, what we're doing here is a niche of a niche of a niche. You got Drew, who's a niche of the larger so-called truth community, and then I'm a niche off of that, right? If I'm using the term niche, even if I'm even using that correctly in this context. So look how many degrees of separation. And then the truth community already being, at least the so-called truth community already at least one step removed. And then Drew himself, although probably not so much now, but at one time, one step removed from this QOC character. So how would this channel become larger and have a larger appeal without necessarily, talking about topics in a way that's going to appeal to more people? So, and I don't think it's a bad thing. So I see Z doing this because I'd never gone to his channel until recently, and I popped over there for the first time. It's like 100 people in the live chat, 100 people in the live. But then when he's at the very end, near the end of this live stream, he went solo and was, monologuing, and you could tell he was speaking in a specific way, not his, in a slower way. He was covering more broad topics. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about appealing to the lowest common denominator. It's not a bad thing, but I'm saying if he wants to have 1,000 in the live, he's going to have to do even more of that, in my view. She triggered my autism around, we got into a it's complicated, but I've actually replayed it at least a couple of times. I wish I could remember what live stream that's on. I could point you to it, Rob Cleveland. Or if I had my laptop was functional, I could just play it for like the 4th time on here. But you're right. I'm not blaming her, but I must be true to my nature. And I understand it's a bit tongue in cheek, perhaps. But the thing is, I can understand that the comment is perhaps a bit tongue in cheek, and I can still take it literally, as I'm wont to do. But yeah, it's not my problem, right? Like, I must be true to myself, which is I'm going to skew more towards logic and reason. Although, show me a human, I'll show you a hypocrite. I will still behave irrationally at times. Of course, I will. I'm a person. Good to see you, Shelley. Am I spiraling? Well, I'm always spiraling, so you're not wrong there. I'm kind of always spiraling. Is this a spiral? See, I don't think it's a spiral, is it? I don't know. Did Shy spiral? And I don't think anything really personal happened. But then now we get into emotions, and what is she coming here to get versus what am I coming here to get versus what is everybody else coming here to get? Because I do see that she does seem to very strongly identify with Paul on some level. And maybe that's an emotional connection for her. I don't know. I'm speculating, right? But I see the way she interacts in Paul's live chats, then the way she was interacting here in this live chat, and then perhaps she was beginning to form that some sort of emotional. And then as Chalk Body Outline is so astutely covered, perhaps a parasocial relationship. So we see Paul is willing to perform what could be correctly called emotional labor, right? And that is part of the daddy thing, that some sort of a warm embrace. Well, that ain't me, y'all. That's never gonna be me. I don't give a fuck about Slash Eye's feelings, and that's a true. See, it sounds really like. What do you mean you don't? That's her problem. I'm doing content on a YouTube channel. I'm not involved in individual human beings' emotions. Now, again, I will address them at times potentially, but here's my thing. This is where the selfishness comes in, and selfishness not inherently being bad. I'm going to do what I know to be correct based on me being able to correctly view myself as a good person. So I'm not going to do things that I know are going to hurt her feeling. But again, the truth of the matter is I'm not involved with how she is emotionally processing these things. And I think that's a lot of what got it. But then I also did potentially humiliate her intellectually by explaining abstraction to her in the moment, which is that was probably the only part I would actually regret. But that's something that bothers me emotionally. So a lot of what I talk about is actually comes out of my own emotional upheaval. I've been annoyed a lot in my real life based on me using abstraction in my thinking and in my communication, and then it took me years to realize, oh, these people they have a very limited ability to process abstraction, and that's okay. And a lot of people, if I introduce a concept and I'm trying to abstract off of that concept, they need to spend time relating to the larger concept. I don't. But I've come to realize and understand and accept that. But then, so now as I'm explaining abstraction in the moment, and somebody correctly on the replay, somebody was like, that's where it all went wrong, that's what caused it to go probably into a place where we can never mend the fences, most likely, was when I began explaining abstraction. But yeah, here's Woody will sum it up for us. I was asserting that a certain right to film tuber provokes people on purpose, which is absolutely 100% provably true, by the way. It's not my opinion. It's not my feeling on the matter. It's a fucking fact. 100%. I will bet you everything I own right now. I got $9,500 on me. I will bet you. Which now somebody made some counterpoints that were also true, but which does not invalidate my claim, by the way. Which, if he is monetized, is objectively true. Thank you, Woody. She would not concede the point and claim the higher ideal. And this is where we get into emotions versus like a figurative chessboard. And when I perceive that somebody's made a blunder, but then they want to continue to have a back and forth and some sort of debate or verbal battle with me, I can't let them off the hook for the blunder. It's like, but you made this move 3 moves ago, you made a blunder that makes it impossible for you to ever checkmate me. Nor can you draw. You can't fight me to a draw even, unless I just spurg out and then I just become guilty based on my own bad behavior, right? As long as I'm not going to just completely spurt, which I actually stayed pretty fucking calm. Stayed very calm, actually, I must say. But I can't do anything about somebody else making a blunder. And if you observe me, once somebody else makes a valid point, I'm just like, oh yeah, of course, and I just accept it. Which people have a lot of problems just acknowledging that someone else is right. I'm like, oh, you're right. And then I remember, first make sure you're right, then go ahead. Well, I can't go ahead if you're right, meaning I can't continue to have a verbal battle once I know that I'm wrong in that context. But then I don't feel some type of way about being wrong. My emotions are not tied to that. I have no feeling about, oh, now people see me as I'm in the wrong, right? I don't have that. That whatever that emotion is that I see in other people, it's just never been installed in me. So I can't operate based on that. And I really don't, like, her feelings are not my concern. And I even said something like, look, if I'm going to be involved in a woman's emotions, like, I'll just go get married for the 3rd time. And looking back on my first marriage and my second marriage, I got a lot of positive benefits from those relationships. But ultimately, it's no longer worth it to me now that I'm older and I'm not as obsessed with sex as I used to be. Well, not at all, thank God, but uh, it's not worth it to me to deal with a female's emotions on a daily basis. So why would I recreate that here? I won't. I'm not going to. And the ladies are always welcome, but I'm not involved in any sort of emotional exchange and turmoil. I'm not involved in that. And I will never be involved in that. That's my choice. Oh yeah, no, yeah. Well, and our attempts to cause him to become big-headed also are not successful. I can go from zero to fully inflated ego, and again, I guess we're doing a lot of this today, but I can go from zero to fully inflated ego like very quickly, very, very quickly. So now I'm able to then come back to centeredness relatively quickly. But I guess ultimately that would be the real growth, is to just never let the head inflate in the first place, I suppose. There's something to be said for manners, by the way. There's something to be said for manners. Now, people who don't understand the culture of the South, a lot of that's based on the so-called culture of honor, and it's actually like the Deep South has 25% of the population and 40% of the violent crime. Uh, so some of that is just predicated on trying to avoid having violence inflicted upon us, right? I think people misunderstand that sometimes. Like, yeah, I'm polite, but that's not necessarily because I'm a weak person, or some people do mistake the kindness for weakness, and that which can be doubly confusing when then all of a sudden Benton's sharp sword is very astutely just fucking carving our arguments into bits, right? With a very sharp, direct, manner. It's like, well, wait a minute, he was so nice and congenial earlier. What happened? Oh well. Here's Name. Shout out to Name here to bring us directly into the lower chakras. By the way, not that there's anything wrong with the lower chakras. Certainly, there's not. And then I laugh at myself because I come on here and I claim all this spiritual progress. I claim all this credit for all this spiritual progress, which is a thing. But then I see my bad behavior, and I'm like, well, okay, this is hilarious. This person comes on here in his best moments, brags about his some having some sort of level of attainment, and then now look at him. And believe me, I get. Well, I'm not sure. See that this is where Shelly. This and shout out to Shelly, by the way. This is where there's a benefit to me to. I'm really not. I probably really do have a double digit IQ. I mean, look, it might be 100. That'd be triple. It could be 99. That'd be double. It's possible my actual IQ is double digits. So I don't know. Abstract logic. So and because of my IQ, I found I must necessarily start with the very basics. I must fully understand the basic concept and then build up from there. So what I'm talking about specifically is if I'm delivering a discourse, I'm able to do that I could reference someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's the larger concept. And then what I'm abstracting off of that is like, say, well, he banged his maid, right? He impregnated his Mexican or his Guatemalan maid or whatever, the live-in housekeeper. So I'm taking that one aspect of Arnold Schwarzenegger's life and I'm pulling it away from the larger whole, and I'm probably doing that with 3 or 4 or 5 other concepts, and I'm taking those 5 little bits and now I'm working with them as almost like a single concept. That's how it seems to me, right? That's what's going on in my brain, but it's actually not even my brain. That's what's going on in my intuitive perception. Again, I can do all of this irrespective of an IQ, right? I mean, it's not happening in my intellect somewhere. Part of it is. Um, so what I've noticed is many people, while they're very intelligent in other ways, they're not able to do that. And I used to become very frustrated because when I would say Arnold Schwarzenegger, there's certain people in the conversation who everything must now stop and they need to go through some sort of emotional process of they need to personally relate with the concept of Arnold Schwarzenegger. But now that I understand that, it's completely fine. But now I may predict ahead of time, okay, I want to make this point using Arnold Schwarzenegger, but like this other person is going to need to pause and have some sort of warm, fuzzy moment with their memories of Arnold Schwarzenegger from their youth or whatever. Or maybe I feel like I can just keep going quickly enough and kind of just bulldoze through that resistance, right? That's for me to manage all of that instead of just being like a child and becoming frustrated and irritated. Yeah, that's right. We need the correction. Yeah, too much, heady intellectualism sometimes. Let's bring it back down into the lower chakras. Well, and as mentioned, this is certainly something I learned from years of working at Outback Steakhouse with probably 50 servers total, most of which, at least 40 of which were females. When they get to talking about sex, they're 10 times dirtier and more graphic than any man could ever be. Any straight man, certainly. Yes, and that's one of the very first things I noticed, name. And this is why I can be beneficial in some of these circles is because I tend to go right to these ideas that a lot of other people miss. And it's okay. I'm not saying this is bad or people need to change. I'm saying one of the first things I noticed was that many so-called truthers, they become enamored with the personality of the person who's conveying the information. Now, like Yurt, I have a positive, like a Q rating, right? Like if I was filling out a survey, they have this so-called Q rating for people in entertainment. He would get a positive review from me, but I'm never showing up based on his Q rating alone. The ideas and the topics discussed and the manner in which they're discussed is first and foremost. It always will be for me. But some of these content creators are able to skate by a little more on their actual personality, I've noticed. Yeah, and then you get into the parasocial. And this is also probably some of what happened with me in Sly Shy is I don't want that's never going to be I'm never going to be able to reciprocate that even if I wanted to. If I wanted to have some sort of reciprocal emotional relationship over the internet, I'm not capable of that. If I actually am autistic, and I'm convinced I am, if I'm actually on the spectrum, I'm literally not capable of that and probably never will be. Thank God. Wouldn't want to be. But it also would not want to live in a world where the majority of the populace is like me, unable to have these, certain type of emotional relationship. It's possible for me, but I definitely need to be in the physical space with somebody. I need to be able to, because I am intuitive and I am very perceptive. I need to be able to, commune with them, if not through physical touch, at least through physical proximity. There's a lot of information conveyed, that I'm able to utilize versus, with the limited information over the internet, it's just not a thing I can do, man. No, and I wouldn't want to, and that's okay. So I'm accepting these things about the general public that I really don't like. So it's like, yeah, there's things about Benton that it's just okay that Benton's that way. Yeah, that's a very astute point about the people and the personalities. And so-called truthers eat their own. They just devour their own, meaning other so-called truthers. That's a thing for sure. And then you get into, and I'm happy to have Austin Murphy on here to talk about flat Earth anytime he wants to. Well, no, I shouldn't say anytime, but in the proper time, but you could tell Tommy wasn't up for he wasn't up for that discussion at that time. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, but then also I think Austin, I'm just guessing. This is mere speculation. If it don't apply, then I'm not talking to you. But I'm only talking about my perception is, and it's because of things I've experienced, right? That if if I'm annoyed because Tommy keeps talking about a globe, And then finally, I've allowed that resentment to build up. And now here I am with Tommy, and I start blasting him with all this scientific knowledge, but it's not really the appropriate time. And again, read the room, right? It's not the, which is not my forte necessarily, but some of that's predicated on, and believe me, I do this as well, but some of that's predicated on letting that resentment build up. So for me, and I think that's what we saw over the weekend, especially when I spurred out for like an hour and 45 minutes on here, I'd allowed some resentment to build up, and then now it comes out. Now I allow it to come out because now I think I'm justified. I think I am. I believe now, okay, I found this, I found here in the fine print, it says, well, actually, it's okay to go ahead and invent this emotion, but really it's not. I just think I found a valid reason. That's one of my patterns I've noticed. Yeah, there you go, fake the funk. Well, and I did actually had a romance with a lady that I met on IRC in the mid '90s, but I still had to go physically travel to where she was, or it was still sort of ethereal and it could have been catfish. See, I mean, like it's not really real till it's real, right? GURU. I bought this gourmet coffee and it's delicious, but I wasn't paying enough attention when I bought it on Amazon. It's actually pre-ground, which I prefer to grind my own beans, but delicious nonetheless. I'm trying not to. I'm either going to have to cut the live stream short, or I'm going to have to remind myself not to look at the screen the whole time. I'm already starting to get the bleary eyed. Something about, I think, driving where I'm have to move my focus around. I can't go into the bleary effect. That is a problem, name. Much worse is the inability to separate oneself from the idea of being espoused. Well, yes, yes, and that I think that's what we ran into with Sly Shy. She was whether she knew it or not, she was strongly identified with the notion that these auditors are actually doing this to make the world a better place. And some of them may be, but many of them are not, which is fine. And I've repeatedly said it's completely fine that he's intentionally trying to trigger the meaning Amagansett Presses. It's okay that he's intentionally setting these people up because they are choosing to participate. Like he's not doing anything wrong, but I correctly was able to, I believe, provably show, well, he's based on this evidence, he's clearly intentionally triggering these people. And that's okay. I have no problem with that. And that seemed to be a lot of the disconnect was, I think for Sly, and I can't speak for Sly Shy, this is my perception. This is what I think happened is she's not able to separate how her positive feelings for the person. They have to have a pure motive. Um, why would I, that would be in my mind, that would be a mistake to impugn pure motive onto another person just out of hand. Just be like, well, of course their motive is pure. What? That doesn't seem like a strategy. But it sounds negative. It sounds cynical. Yeah, but I'm talking about strategically in my life. That seems like a poor strategy to just go into interactions and to just project a pure motive onto somebody else. That just doesn't seem like a thing. As long as a person identifies as a monolith, they are reactive before they are. I have a lot of trouble with being reactive. Yeah, well, and then this is a big part of many people struggle or specifically, right? Like this is like that's kind of the crux of the thing, man. Is in my best moments, I'm thoughtful and responsive, and then when I'm in my lesser moments, I'm more just impulsive and reactive. But then sometimes it's good to be impulsive and reactive. So it's not always bad. See, sometimes I'm very spontaneous, and sometimes that's sometimes I'm very spontaneous, and it actually is very beneficial because it's not. I don't get stuck in this. Well, should I do this thing or should I not do this thing? It's just like when I said "fuck you" to those people at that receiver. That was very spontaneous and impulsive, but it actually, in the long run, it was a good thing in my life. And I found I'm never punished if I'm righteously standing up for myself. I'm never punished for that. Which is ultimately they were mistreating me, and I was just like, I'm not putting up with this mistreatment. This is not right. I don't have to be here. I'm leaving. Fuck you. Go fuck yourselves. Not you, but them. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, hilarious. That's good stuff. Oh, well, then we get into the repressed homosexuality, and I'm not even like this is not even really interesting for me. And then, like I said yesterday, I'm just trying to keep the channel from becoming like the gay hookup. You know, I mean, like it's already kind of gone there a couple of times. And then I think there's just this assumption that it's like if when I was younger and obsessed with sex, maybe it's easy to just assume everybody's obsessed with sex. Like, yeah, I'm not. Did I used to be? Of course. Any just about any adult male with a normal level of testosterone is going to be obsessed with sex for years on end. Thank God that's over with. I don't even really think about it that much. And then, I come from a time warp. I might as well have grown up in the 50s, like just yoga pants and the whole thing, man. The showing of the bodies and like leave a little bit to the imagination. Like that's my thing is I don't, why should I know exactly what everything looked like from second one of seeing this person? Wouldn't that, if I was actually going to go into another relationship, wouldn't I want to sort of discover that over time versus just this is what it is? The be able to just more or less just draw a picture of the nether regions, basically. It's like that's now etched in my mind. I'm not into that. And like when I was in the 80s, girls would wear leggings, but they always had like a long shirt over it or like a long sweater. There was never like women are just roaming around showing the shape of their ass, man. It just wasn't a thing. It's okay. Like believe me, I'm not here to repress women or do whatever you want. I believe in freedom. I'm just talking about from what I prefer to look at. So when I'm seeing all these women that are objectively very attractive, they have objectively attractive bodies. It's like the way it's presented to me. I'm like, ugh. Like I enjoy on a carnal level. It's always enjoyable, but it's like I'm repelled by the. It's like why are we doing it? I just don't get it. I mean, I understand it, but it's just like really. And now the lady looks like everybody else. It's like, well, yeah, everybody else is in yoga pants with body shaping and Spanx and uh, doing fucking going to the gym and doing butt blaster exercises, right? Uh, what is this? Thanks, man. Is this on the female forums? Hopefully that's what I'm getting agreements with. And again, taboo. Like we see that Benton doesn't have any. I don't have any unusual or great ability as at the level of my oration or my discourse. It's a lot of this is just I will talk about things that I don't. Other people just ain't talking about. It's just not. It's not being discussed. Well, back in the weightlifting days, I certainly there was times when I was waiting tables at Outback and in the lounge area, the bar area, and I remember a lady came in and as she went past me, she copped a feel, and I said, hey, I charge $10 for that. I was real bad. I was into the cocky and the funny back then. Yeah. So I used to be a much different person, y'all. That's a much different person. Yeah. Get a lot of attention. Very, very attention seeking. Very much in my ego at that time. Yep. Exactly. David D'Angelo. And that shit, I mean, works. Now it's all changed with well, and really that goofball mystery is the one that ruined it all because women are like, oh, wait a minute. And that the book, The Game is like, wait a minute. Like the ladies are like, well, we know we're playing a game, but now you're telling me they know that we're playing a game and now they're playing a counter game. So that just introduced a whole new level of yet another counter game, right? So it's like now we're getting pretty meta with it, which yeah, my brain can process all of that, but And I never even had to adapt to the texting, thank God. So I'm done, man. I'm not trying to go back into all of that. Yeah. But yeah, that David D'Angelo stuff was gold. I read all of that stuff. Mhm, indeed. And he's a goofball. Look at him in the modern age. I looked at his social media the other day out of curiosity. He's just some bozo. But back in the day, it was when everything was more text based. That was it was a lot different thing, and he was putting forth, I guess, a certain clean cut image. But now, if you look at him, it's like, why would anybody even go listen to that guy? Oh, I don't think it would. See, I don't think it would because, like I said, that worked then. But it does work in a vacuum. So there's always situations where you're in that vacuum. But, you know, the fact that the ladies understand that they always knew they were playing a game, but then now they realize, oh, the guys know that they're playing a game. It's like, okay, now the men, because before it was the men were just more or less oblivious and didn't know what the fuck was going on. So now it's like, oh, now the men know about the game. So the women just step it up. And we know women always they've had an advantage. That they socialize. They're more sophisticated at the same age than men are. So while I was on the playground throwing dirt clods at my classmates, they were standing in a circle somewhere with their he and with their hand over their mouth, observing all our habits and becoming experts in observing, in us, right? We weren't paying them any attention whatsoever until now the hormones are kicking in. It's like now we're noticing the movement underneath their skirt or whatever, as she walks by. It's very simple for the fellas a lot of the time. It's not that complicated. And the fact is, we do have a higher degree of difficulty because we're dealing with a woman. She's dealing with a man that's very simple. As long as we can get laid, bring us a sandwich every once in a while and try not to talk so much. I mean, literally, then we're good for the most part, or used to be. I'm sure that's changed as well as the men become more like women. The males become more feminized, and of course that's changing. But like with ex-wife number two, I used to just tell her, like, look, you got to go find a girlfriend to talk to. If I don't want to hear this, I'm your man. Like, what are you even doing? You're trying to turn me into your girlfriend. Like, fuck off. I don't want to hear this. I don't care about this. Leave me alone. Like, men used to just be able to say that, or at least just be like, all right, I'm going to go work on the fucking lawnmower now. Meaning, like, I've had enough of this. Like, I'm just going to go do something, right? But now that the males are feminized and they're sitting around talking, and it's not lost on me that I'm sitting here talking with you folks, right? So I'm also doing that thing that even as I rail against it potentially. I mean, do you see what's happening here? Oh, I don't know. Probably, I would assume so. I'm kind of new to the Little Hat Club because just where I grew up, it was just we'd heard of that, and as far as we were concerned, that was a religion. And then I guess eventually that Schindler's List movie came out, and I guess we got bits and pieces of the puzzle here and there. But I'm sure there were Jews in our community. Or I said the word. Oh my God, I said the word. I'm sure there were some in the community. I didn't know who they were. I didn't know anything about it. No idea. So it's hard for me to care, but I'm also not going to be one of these people who just dismisses all of these things out of hand. Like there are some valid points made against the little hats. So I can't be I can't have integrity intellectually and just be like, oh, well, that's just a bunch of racists and whatever, those are, it's anti-Semitic. Like, what? I'm pretty sure that's not a thing. I mean, it is for some people, but it's like, yeah, there's KKK in Arkansas, but it's so small and has such little influence, and it's just more or less a joke. Like it's not really taken seriously. If you're in that, if you live in that county where it's going on, or the next county over maybe, but for the rest of us, it's like, what? What are you talking about? It's not even a thing. That's sort of how I see the so-called anti-Semitism. His real name is Eben Pagan. Yeah, who knows? Well, and then, I did a podcast talking about those topics, dating and relationships, and I did make a little bit of money coaching, coaching calls, which is ultimately was just some nice guy with a good job and a nice house in a high income who just needed me to yell at him, be like, "Hey, you fucking bozo! That the lady you see at the grocery store with some alcoholic criminal in a fucking wife beater would rather be with you, except you're too fucking precious to treat her like just enough of a piece of garbage for her to stick around. Because they know they're garbage. I mean, that's what men don't understand about women. She knows she's a piece of garbage, and I'm not saying she's a piece of garbage. I'm saying she knows she's a piece of garbage on some level. Why are you being so nice to a piece of garbage? That's literally the disconnect. Uh, you know, for me to be able to accept, I don't want to accept that it's this way. I would love to be able to put a woman on a pedestal and, oh, she's great, her shit don't stink. But she knows she's not that thing. That's the problem. Uh, and I'm not saying to mistreat people. I'm saying every time when ex-wife number two, when I noticed when she really got bent out of shape and felt like now she needed to connect to her feminine nature and sow chaos and discord in the relationship, it's because I had been too nice to her. And now I know, okay, well, I need to fucking run roughshod over her for a couple of days, and then she'll be happy as can be. That has nothing. That just fulfills none of my needs, by the way. None. So yeah, a nice guy in a corporate, climbing the corporate ladder, who has a good job, a good house, a good income. Well, why wouldn't he want to have a woman that fits into all of that, and then he can just be the same? He can just be with her the same way he's gotten all of those things. Except, no, it doesn't work, and that's why the piece of garbage criminal alcoholic in wife beater in a wife beater, that's why he always has a broad, because he's at least got the audacity to just be like, yeah, bitch, you ain't shit, but treat her like she ain't shit, because she knows she ain't shit on some level, because she's not. And meanwhile, look at what society does. It continues to reinforce these ideas that everything she does is wonderful, right? It's not for me to say any of that's right or wrong. It's for me to recognize all this and put it in a certain context, and then know, oh, well, as much as I might want to treat my woman correctly and properly and be nice to her, she can't handle that shit. Because Lord knows what sort of abusive situation she's come up out of. You know, uh, whatever. Why would I want to go through that again, by the way? Well, but then, and then then you do this, name. A lot of men make the mistake of talking to women and then believing what they say. What she says and what she responds to are not the same thing at all. She doesn't fucking know. You're just talking to her logic. It's her feelings that do the decision making, especially in an in a relationship context. Whatever you ask her and then her brain spits out an answer, that means nothing. That's just ignore that. Like, and I've said it before, I'll say it again. A lot of this shit I learned because I read all of these things. And then I watched every episode of the TV show Blind Date ever. And I analyzed it based on all this knowledge. I filled my head with all this intellectual knowledge. Then I observed it. The men that did the best said the least. The men who did the worst said the most. Period. There was a guy on there, he barely said 2 words. And by the end of it, the chick is trying to call her friend to have a threesome with him. I'm not even kidding. Guy barely said anything. So shut the fuck up, smart guys. I don't give advice, by the way. I think the idea of me giving advice is ridiculous, but I did learn to just shut the fuck up. Just shut and by the way, half the time that's what she wants me to do. And Lord knows I can give a lecture and I can just talk for an hour and a half, especially if I get my panties in the bunch over, the household budget, or, she fucking did something that ran afoul of my leadership. It's like, yeah, I can give, but again, now is that resentment that's built up over time? Is that anger seeking an outlet? And she's just sitting there like, will this motherfucker ever shut up? That's what she's thinking. Will this motherfucker ever shut up? Why won't he shut the fuck up? So yeah, just shut the fuck up, or leave. I got to where I just get in my car and fucking drive to the fucking Walmart parking lot, and just sit there for a couple hours, then come back. Why do the verbal stuff? It doesn't get anybody anywhere. And no panties are moistened because because Benton gave an hour and a half lecture, a slash diatribe. That doesn't help anybody's sexual organs, I can assure you. Well, of course it was staged, but it's still actual. The humans are interacting. And I understand what you're saying. Well, it was produced. It was a produced reality show. Of course it was. I'm talking about the actual interactions with people. There's a lot to be learned, or there was for me anyway. You can attempt to dismiss it, but there's something there. And hopefully I'm intelligent enough to be able to realize, yes, I'm watching a produced. There's cameras there, so just the fact that there's people filming it, that necessarily changes the interactions themselves, right? Just the observer phenomenon, or whatever they call that. Just the fact that something knows it's being observed will change its behavior. But you're missing the point. See, this is in a context. It's in the context of they're already on a date. So I'm not saying don't talk and you'll get girls. So you're trying to simplify. That's the male brain, by the way. We want to make all of these things very simple so we can. And this D'Angelo talks about this. David D'Angelo. We want to figure it out so we can put it behind us. That will never happen. It's always, I do something, she responds, I respond to the way she responds. Like, it never fucking ends. And I used to say, because I am skilled at coming up with these aphorisms, it's not about how you react or how you act or how you respond. It's how you react to her reaction. That's where guys can learn all this stuff. They can practice it, but then she has some sort of reaction, and then he instantaneously reacts to that reaction, and that tells her everything she needs to know. And women and information, by the way, it's my job to manage the information. See, who wants to manage all this? You see what I'm saying? Like, why? The fact that I know how to do all this in a pre-texting world, by the way, these broads weren't mobbing around with smartphones back in my day. Back in my day. So, I mean, what are we even talking about, right? Anyway, it's fraught with peril. And the fact is, it's no longer socially. Now, some men are able to pull this off, and then shout out to Rob Cleveland. Some of his people still practice this, form of masculinity in which the man is the boss, of the relationship or whatever, in a cultural context. But for the rest of us, man, it's really not even socially acceptable to just be like, yeah, man, of course I'm the boss in my relationship. Because that if a man is a heterosexual and he's in a relationship with a woman, to just even say, well, of course I'm in charge. Well, he's now oppressing that woman. But the woman can just be like, well, yeah, of course I wear the pants in the relationship. And that's celebrated, see? So all of this operates in context. And the context in which all of this operates is that context. Again, now we're back to my ability to have all of these abstractions in my brain and work with them simultaneously. Like, I can do that. I can realize, okay, everything between me and her outside of this apartment we live in exists, and some of this that happens here exists in that context. But once we leave this apartment, it all exists in a greater context of, for me to say, well, yeah, I'm not, my testicles are between my legs. They're not in my woman's purse like every other guy's. That's oppressive. That's now literally viewed as I'm oppressing her and I'm a sexist. Literally. Yeah, but you can't. That's the thing, is that it's impossible. And this is where we get back to, like David Cho said, he doesn't pay for sex. He pays them to leave. Yeah, the never ending nonsense games. Exactly. Why would I, now that I'm 47 and I'm not thinking all day long about the female form, because we can say, well, you can make jokes about Benton and whatever he's been up to in the past, but that's what I've been obsessed with, is the woman, like from the neck down, like from her neck down to like the top of her fucking thighs, like just above her knees, like that part of a woman, right? That I've been obsessed with that, for however many years, and now I'm not obsessed with that. So I no longer have to concern myself with these things. And it's gotten much worse. I caught the tail end of just being able to just be a dude and have a broad. I had a broad just because I was a dude, and she wanted a broad wanted a dude back in the day, and I was a dude. So it's like, yeah, he's athletic. He's a bozo, but he can read a book and he's fucking, can hold down a job. And it's like, it's not that complicated, right? But I caught the tail end of that, I caught the very tail end of that. Well, but see, we're not physically superior, name, because in some ways women are physically superior to us, believe it or not. But like I've said, no woman, no biological woman born a woman will ever become the world chess champion. They don't produce enough testosterone to defeat men at that level of competition. Well, now it is physical in that's the hormones. It is physical, but well, so you're kind of right because that is physical. But a woman will never win the world chess championship. A woman born a woman will never be the greatest poker player in the world. It will never happen. They cannot produce enough testosterone. And if you give them enough testosterone, the side effects are too harsh. It's never going to happen. I don't know. It's a good question. I've known about YouTube since the very beginning. So I've everything I find out about. I knew about Bitcoin when it literally had no value. When you could just mine it on your computer. So I know about all this stuff. I knew about Facebook when you had to have a .edu. I actually went to Facebook and tried to make an account, and it said your email address has to end in .edu. Like, I find out about all this stuff early. Netflix. Had a Netflix subscription when they launched streaming on their website for beta. Like, I'm always there in the beginning for the most part. Well, but this is this is order out of chaos, name, which in turn will cause her to behave better and become much more selective. Well, but I don't disagree. But then it's like, the man is the rock. Like, the man is like the face of the bluff, and she's the wave crashing. She needs us to be the thing that can't be moved by the crashing of her emotions. See? But now we're no longer really supported or enabled or facilitated. So at the level of society, we're not really allowed to do that and then be in good standing in our peer groups. So we get to, yes, I can be very psychologically manipulative. Why should I spend 25% of my mental energies managing some broad's affairs by having to run pimp game on my woman for years and years and years? I shouldn't have to do that, but that's what it comes down to. Otherwise, she's in charge. Somebody's always in charge. And what is the first thing the woman says? Oh, I thought we were equal. I thought it was about equality. No, somebody always has more power. Now that can go back and forth over time, but somebody always can put the foot down and has the veto power. And if I can't put the foot down and have the veto power, that means she has the veto power, and I can't live that way because I wasn't raised that way. I mean, it really is that simple. Yeah, it's all why, and thank God I'm not 25 with sky high testosterone like I was. Thank God. I feel bad for these guys nowadays. It's fucking terrible, man. These poor guys. Yeah. Well, and then that's what it is, though. And by the way, a lot of women like hearing this kind of stuff. And in fact, ex-wife number 2, when I fucked off to California for the first time, she was missing me, and she listened to my podcast. Now she's a ditz. I mean, I like ditzy chick. Ditzy, not the Dixie chicks. Ditzy chick. But it was me talking about broads, right? But it's real. Like it's all real. That's the thing. Like, woman, and that was the whole David D'Angelo thing. Is attraction is not a choice. Like, a woman can't choose what she responds to any more than I can't choose that to respond to a specific waist to hip ratio. Which, by the way, the system's trying to promote this idea of older women. Scientifically speaking, see, here's the pelvis in a young woman. As the woman ages, it starts to do this. The pelvis changes shape. So that's a signal to me that, oh, this woman is too old for me to impregnate her. Go find a woman with this shape because the woman with this shape can have a baby. Once it gets like this, no. I didn't make it that way, by the way. That's not Benton inventing. This is how it is, whether y'all like it or not. That's how it is. Yeah, exactly. Shout out to ditzy chicks. Yes, I like ditzy chicks. Yes, both wives were ditzes. They were both fucking hilarious. Also, number two could have definitely been a comedy writer, especially based on that Hollywood wants female writers, but something was done to her in her schooling process where she's allergic to sitting at a desk and doing schoolwork, and that's what comedy writing would be at some level. It would have too strong of an association with school. Yeah, exactly. Well, and dude, I'm not ashamed to say it. I'm 47. If for some insane reason I had another relationship, based on the pattern that as it emerges, I'm probably looking at 15 years for the next one. I got no interest in having a relationship with a woman in menopause. So I got to start about 35 years old. I need her to be, if it's going to be, and look, the fact is nobody's getting together and staying together in spite of what Provo Kid wants you to think. So if it's going to be 15 years and I'm 47, what's that? I'd be 63 and she's going to be 50, by the time it's over with, right on the precipice of menopause. Drop her off. Let her let some 25-year-old start banging her. Who cares? And I don't. But by the way, this is because I don't feel any ownership. As much as I might be controlling, and I was very possessive. That was my possession. My woman was my possession. I don't look at it that way anymore. I don't believe I can possess another person. I don't think it's appropriate. So yeah, we'll drop her off when she's 50, and some 25-year-old can bang her. Why would I want to be with a woman in menopause? Her use to me is over. Even though I don't want children, the thing that strongly sexually attracts me to her, her ability to have offspring, is now gone. Why would I continue to be sexually attracted to her? I wasn't designed that way. I didn't create that situation. It's not for me to be like, oh, well, better eat the Viagra so I can get a Woody. Meanwhile, here comes a 22-year-old and I don't need the Viagra. A scientist proved years ago, young women, and I don't mean underage, 18-year-old girls literally cures erectile dysfunction in the majority of males. It's not that the equipment doesn't work; it's that it doesn't work with the 58-year-old spouse. I didn't make it that way. It's not. Don't blame Benton for this. Yeah. By the way, not going to have kids. I'm not. And these women go fucking nuts, man. They go nuts around menopause. They lose their minds. And look, the fact is, I don't care if it's my mama or my sisters. They lose their fucking minds on a regular basis. That's just what women do. I didn't make it that way. Yeah, men are crazy too, by the way, but women they go nuts part of the time. They're just insane. And then here's the number one mistake men make with women. When she's losing her shit and she's spiraling and she's emotional, he tries to talk logic to her. Your logic cannot penetrate that emotion. It's not possible. Shut the fuck up. I used to do this, blah, 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 blah. And she's just having some sort of emotional turmoil. No. It can never, the logic, it doesn't matter. But the man thinks, okay, well, I just didn't craft my logic carefully enough. Let me go back to the drawing board and cook up, some stronger concoction of logic, and then we'll pour that onto the situation and see how that works. No, knock it off. And this is where I get to correct philosophy is the absence of incorrect philosophy. Once I recognize something can't possibly work, knock it the fuck off. Just don't do it. That's where men are irrational. What's more irrational than repeating the same behavior even though it has no chance of success and we see that it never succeeds? Yeah, when she becomes emotional and we go blah, 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 that never works. But let's just irrationally keep doing that, fellas. Great plan. Exactly, yeah, that's the lean into the craziness. Yeah, that's right, Woody. We're not any better, by the way. We're just different. It's like, oh, he hates women. No, I'm a misanthrope. Believe me, the composition of somebody's sexual organs is not, that's not a good enough reason for me to dislike somebody. I can dislike them solely based on their humanity itself. I don't need extra reasons. Oh, well, I'll tell you what I did, Name. They love this, by the way. And this, it definitely helped that I was 195 pounds and had been hitting the weights. I just lower my head, I wrap my arm around her fucking legs, and now she's on my shoulders, and I just kind of make a joke out of dancing around the living room and hooping and hollering with her on my fucking shoulder. I caveman her. I physically caveman her, but not in an abusive way. They love it. They fucking love it. Scoop her up and just fucking bounce her up. But you have to, now is the man, see, I can't do that shit now. But I could at one time just make one move, duck my head, wrap one arm around her fucking legs, and just stand up with her on my shoulders. If you can't do that to your woman, what are you even doing? Now, if you can physically do that, why aren't you? I did all that shit, man. All of it. Yes, Rob Cleveland, I agree. Because a woman is going to know that when she's emotional, that's not the time to have important conversations. Has anybody noticed? And again, none of this is woman bashing. Has anybody noticed that? Because look, I was very immature. Okay, surprise, surprise. I was in relationships with women who were very immature. That's not a coincidence. So if I'm a very mature person, and then I end up in a relationship with a very mature woman, she's going to understand this is not the time to have serious discussions when her emotions are up in a state of upheaval. But have you noticed that most of you guys, probably most of your woman, will only have those important discussions when she's in a state of emotional upheaval? If you try to approach her when she's not, it can become very difficult to even get her to engage in those, or she can just be very dismissive and just, what they would do to me is they would just tell me everything they thought I wanted to hear. But then later on, when now I'm actually trying to institute what she agreed to, now she's becoming very emotional, see? And that now I'm trying to correct her, but she's too emotional to be corrected, see? Because I accepted that she blew a bunch of smoke up my ass when I did approach her when she was calm, and she knew how to say the right things that I wanted to hear. And now I'm in my ego. Oh yeah, I'm so fucking smart. Of course she agrees, you know? Oh, and she's just thinking, yeah, wait, I got this motherfucker. I got him right where I want him. Yep. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We'll see, motherfucker. We'll see. Well, but we don't have it in common. No, we don't. I age like fine wine, Shelley. If I didn't have health issues, my dad's 67. That women flock to him everywhere he goes. A 67 let's face the fact, 67-year-old women don't go in public and men flock to them. That's not a thing. We don't age the same. It is not the same experience. We're in a time, we're in a culture, we're in a context when we're trying to make everything the same. That's corporatism, by the way. We're in a corporate structure. We're trying to make everything the same. You do not age like I age. Period. It is not the same experience. The fact is, my 67-year-old dad could easily date 30-year-olds if he wanted to. Now, maybe a 67-year-old woman could date 30-year-olds, but I don't know. What kind of quality of a male is that, I would say. She could get laid by a 30-year-old man. Is there 30-year-old men that are going to be in a relationship with a 67-year-old woman? I guarantee you there's no shortage of 40-year-old women my dad could, if he wanted to. For some reason, he wants to date women his own age. I don't know why. But it's not the same. It's not the same process. It's just not. It's not the same thing. But then men also, the mental decline can be more steep. Where then by the time they're in their 60s, even if the man was in charge early on, now she's way ahead of him because he's more or less used up to nothing, and she's still got some spirit and some fight. And how many times have you seen this, right? So when I say it's not the same, yeah, but that works both ways, right? Like yeah. But the fact is, I reached my peak physical attractiveness. I was about 40, and no woman peaks physically at 40. It's not a thing. There's no woman who looks. If a woman is always at her best level of attractiveness throughout her life, there's no woman who's more attractive at 40 than she was at 22. None. I was way better looking at 40 than I was when I was 22. And that's the case for many men. It's not the same. We're not doing the same thing. Well, and that's another thing. See, and this is what I try to tell my dad, because see, my dad, my dad, and part of this is what part of Talcott does. Talcott's lying to himself. You know, it's whatever he's doing with us is bad. Just think of what he's doing to himself. He lies to himself. So I see my dad lying to himself. My dad thinks, okay, he leaves wife number 3, which had become an actual abusive situation, and now he moves into his own apartment. But that's really just a way station while he gets his faculties about him again. She had his head completely fucking screwed up. So in his mind, now he's believing what the internet's telling him. Oh, he's an introvert. He thinks my dad is an extrovert. He's not an introvert. That's ridiculous. It's a non-starter. He has to be around people. So now he's thinking he can just go fuck off and live in an apartment by himself. Sure, no, he can't. So I know he's going to meet someone. He's going to meet another one. He's going to be with a woman no matter what. This man is going to be with a woman. So when I'm trying to give him hints, I was like, man, if I was to meet a woman, the first thing I want to know is list of medications. I can't enter into a relationship with a woman with an unknown list of medications. I need to know what that broad's on. I need to know what's in that medicine cabinet. I want a list of meds. And I'm not going to date a woman, but I'm certainly not going to date a woman that's on fucking psych meds. Why would I be so crazy as to date someone who's crazy enough that she's on psych meds? But it's just normal now. It's just completely normal. Oh, well, I'm having problems regulating my mood, so my doctor put me on a SSRI or whatever. Oh, I was having trouble getting out of bed, so, now I'm on the Prozac-like drug. Or, oh, well, I'm having trouble sleeping, so now I'm on Ambien. It's just, oh, well, yeah. There's hardly a woman in American society that doesn't gobble pills. They're basically all drug addicts. Can we face that? And by the way, almost every woman is more or less a fucking certified pharmacist, as far as I can tell. These broads are experts in drugs, man. Experts. And I'm not saying men aren't either. And lots of men on psych meds. I'm not. And now that I'm off the booze, hell, I'm not on anything. Why? If I'm not on anything, why would I want to be with a woman who's on a whole list of meds? That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, all kind of meds. And Adderall. Dude, I walk in the truck stop sometimes. Some woman just comes flying out of nowhere, just full fucking speed, almost runs me over on her way to the bathroom. The bitch is on Adderall. That's not normal behavior. So when I see a fucking comet come just flying out of fucking nowhere, and it's a 42-year-old woman, she's on Adderall. Of course she is. And that's her business. Lord knows if I want to put a substance in my body, I'm going to. That's my business. But you don't think I don't see that these broads are all on Adderall? The whole country's on amphetamines. Yeah, I got to calm down. Breathe, Benton, breathe. Yeah, and I don't care what people do. Ultimately, my only choice is, am I going to participate? But so my dad's met this new woman, and now they're more or less living together. He has smartened up enough to realize that he has to have his own apartment. Because I finally gotten through his thick head. I said, man, your only real mistake in all of this is that you end up living with these broads, and then you don't have nowhere to escape to when they really start tripping hard. I said, you have to have somewhere to fuck off to when this bitch starts tripping. You just have to. What are you going to do? Go sit in your car in the Walmart parking lot like I used to? It's not a thing, man. You have to have a fucking apartment. And as far as I know, she comes over to his place every night, and then she goes back. They go, neutral corners. She goes back to her place during the daytime. Yeah, good, great. But he can also. She don't live there. Now if he lets her establish residency, now he can't. If she really starts tripping, he can't have the authorities. He needs to be able to have the authorities remove her. But in the honeymoon stage, it's hard to view our romantic partner is somebody we may have to actually call the authorities. And I don't mean in the free man on the land, handle your own affairs. I just mean generally, may have to actually call the cops because this bitch is creating a scene, and have the cops physically fucking remove her from my premises. Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. That was in the news cycle. Adderall shortages. Definitely. Hell, I had to kick my grandma out of our house when I was like 14. By the way, man of the house. If my dad ain't around, my grandma started tripping something about religion. She was just spazzing out, tripping. I just very politely and nicely went and opened the door and just was more or less like, "Hey, we'll see you next time." Time to go. 14 fucking years old, man. And she's a great woman, and that only happened the one time, but it's like, time to go. You don't live here. See you later. Yep. There you go. No hard feelings. Try again next time. And she was, that was just an unusual thing. But she was a thoughtful enough woman. I'm sure she went home and prayed and realized the error of her ways and fucking didn't repeat it. And by the way, apologize by knocking that shit off. That's really the only apology I need, is just don't do that shit again. Well, yeah, I mean that's the thing is, and that's with the Mormonism, that when I went out there in my early 20s, for my job, I was out in Utah for a couple of weeks, and I'm telling you, man, that they recruit through those attractive young women, and I'm not like, I wasn't some incel who couldn't, I had attractive women in my life, you know, um, dude, some of these Mormon women were just gorgeous. They were really, they were very flirtatious with me, but they made it clear there's a line of delineation. Like, okay, if you want the good stuff, you're going to have to. There's going to be some level of commitment involved. And then these three of them, the three cutest ones, this was a college bookstore, wrote me a fucking letter in Arkansas. I'm like, good lord, they're trying to get me to move. And believe me, if I could have pretended to believe in that Mormon nonsense, I would have fucking moved to Utah. Hell yeah, why not? They're just like, hey, it's a white guy who can hold down a job, and yeah, he's got a funny accent, but fuck. And actually, my accent wasn't nearly as bad back then for whatever reason. But yeah, they would have been happy to have me. But yeah, I'm not the thing. That's the thing, is I'm not a Muslim. There you go. Well, and if you guys want to binge watch something, I don't remember which network it was, but somebody came out with a show based on Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, and they were supposed to do 2 seasons, but for whatever reason they scrapped it after the first season. But that was a really good show. And then Soma, of course, is it's a mainstay in the show where anytime somebody experiences some sort of anxiety, what would normally be an anxiety situation where a person would experience anxiety, they have this little Pez dispenser and they eat a Soma, so they never experience negative emotions essentially. Yeah. Well, there you go, Woody. Yeah, Mennonite women. Yeah. But the fact is, I don't have no desire to run somebody else's life. So what I ended up, but I'm in charge. I'm going to be the boss. But so what I ended up with was women who wanted me, and this goes back to Rob Cleveland's point about women and maturity and all this. That I just, because of my lack of maturity, I ended up with women who used my managerial skills to not have to grow up, and let me manage their affairs on some level. But I was so in my ego that I just used that to feed my ego instead of, eventually I figured out, oh, wait a minute, this bitch she's siphoning off like 25% of my mental faculties to literally run her fucking daily life, and to provide her with that discipline, that she's lacking in her life, you know. Meanwhile, I really don't have any. If you separate, if I'm now, so now if I conquer my ego enough that I no longer identify with, oh, well, these other guys think I'm the shit because I can, I got a strong pimp hand with this attractive woman. Now that I'm not into that, it's like, well, why am I? And then she's using me. She's just using me, for her own purposes, right? It's sick, man. So it's once I figured that out, why would I continue to participate in it? But I'd sunk my fucking hook so deep into her psychology that it still took a couple of years of me just not facilitating her life, for me just not being her manager, you know, uh, and not running pimp game on her every day. It still took a couple of years for her interest to wane enough that she was finally ready to just let me go. Well, and see, it's my job to protect myself from toxic people, so-called toxic people. That's my job. That's it's my job to set those boundaries. It's kind of chilly in here, man. Yeah, I may wrap it up pretty soon. I'm trying to, like I said, I'm trying to avoid that bleary-eyed, the bleary effect. Something about this, something about the live streaming that's just like it's just. And this is the third eye region, by the way. And I am in touch with my chakras, so this is pretty expanded, I would say. But it's like it's just pulling out. Like it's hard to explain, but yeah, something's going on there that I don't get when I'm driving, talking, and just glancing at the screen on occasion. There's something to this, man. And even if I just sit around watching YouTube videos, although I'd listen more than I actually watch. Man, it's funny. I didn't even realize that how much I rub my eyes. It's not that I do it often, but when I rub them for like five. It seems like 2 minutes straight. That clip that Truther Cop played to me, I'm just like rubbing my eyes for like 90 straight seconds. I'm watching this back, like, damn, I didn't even know I did that for that long. Yeah, vibration. Yeah. Well, yeah, and my eyesight with my health issues, this whatever this supplement is I'm taking, uh, my eyesight has improved for sure in the short term. So I'm trying to stay on this same prescription. Even if I get new glasses, I'd like to keep the same prescription. But for a while, I was like, I guess I gotta get a new prescription. We'll see. We'll see. Well, I'll give a few minutes for see what the comments say. Yeah, toxic people. Well, but then sometimes that's yeah. See, that's not because if you have see like me, the fact that I recognize that I'm very skilled at manipulation. So when I was feeding my ego, and part of that was using my natural manipulative tendencies, I'm not going to ever get in a relationship with another manipulator. See, you're not going to have manipulator on manipulator crime, um, at least not that I'm involved with. But show just the fact that I won't be with a manipulative, someone who's very manipulative overtly, though. See, that's the thing is, see, now we get into nuance. See, ex-wife number two was very manipulative, but she was able to do it in a, in a yin to my yang, right? Like she did it in a very subtle way. So yeah, not a fan, Woody. Not a fan. That's Lou Reed, right? Not a fan. Nothing against it. I just don't understand the whole Lou Reed thing. I gotta say, assuming that's Lou Reed, I think I'm right on that. I never got it. I just never got it. But there has to be something there, right? But it's also like Bob Dylan. Like, I don't like Bob Dylan either. But I recognize there's got to be something there. But like, how is this like the greatest singer songwriter of all time? I can't even sing. You know, like is that it's like Stephen Hawking. This is the smartest man in the world. Like Bob Dylan. This is the greatest singer songwriter. Arguably, it's like really the guy literally can't fucking sing. I just don't understand it. But Lou Reed, I mean, I never got it. No, it's like I'm new. It's like I don't have a negative impression. I don't have a positive impression. It's just neutral. Oh well, yeah. And Dylan, basically, he more or less just straight up said he sold his soul to what he referred to as the chief commander. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure there's got to be something to the music, Woody. It's just whatever that is, I'm missing it. Yeah, I understand it. I'm probably lacking something. Yeah, because I've tried to listen to Velvet Underground at various times. Maybe at some point I'll be able to listen. I don't know. Not sure. Oh shit. Well, that's true. And back in the day, they had to be able to entertain. Yeah, it's gotten to where they don't have to be able to sing necessarily. Very true. Best singer of my lifetime. There's a few, I guess, and as much as I don't like Celine Dion's music, but she can sing her fucking ass off, right? And Whitney Houston, that's probably the number one of my lifetime, most likely. Adele can sing really well, obviously. But then even Karen Carpenter, Janis Joplin to some extent, she's overrated in my opinion, but some of that stuff's pretty fucking good. Did I or should I? What do you? I don't know what you're saying here about the dark mode. Yeah, there you go. Well, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the songs. I'm saying they probably are good songs. I'm saying his ability to sing them is really what I'm referring to. But I'm one of those guys like the whole Tavistock Beatles thing, and then, you know, Paul McCartney most likely dying in a car wreck and being replaced by. And I actually read this guy's book. I forget what it's called, something about Billy Shears, and it's supposedly a book that the current Paul McCartney supposedly told all this his life story to some guy who wrote it. That's the story anyway, because Paul McCartney is apparently some guy who's the current Paul McCartney is supposedly this guy who's descended from William Wallace, I guess. And I am a conspiracy theorist. I love all these conspiracies. It's great. It's very entertaining. But there's certainly a lot of evidence, that Paul, the original Paul, was replaced. And like it's pointed out in Billy Shears. Billy Shears is basically saying I'm a way better musician than the original Paul McCartney ever thought about being, and it's you can hear it in the music, and the music did fucking change, after if there was two Paul McCartneys after the current Paul McCartney took over, you know, fake Paul, as it were. I'm not a big Beatles guy though overall, personally, but they have some badass songs. Of course they do. I mean, I don't think anybody can say that be like, oh yeah, their shit sucks. No, they have some badass songs. Yeah, well that's true. I agree, Woody. But then the fact is, we had the best music, like Gen X, dude. Like people are still fucking rocking that. The '90s was such a time of music, man. Even late '80s, early '90s, into the mid '90s, like that blows away that to me that's unparalleled. And I am factoring in that, of course, I was young during that period, so I'm going to be biased, of course, but I'm still discovering stuff from the '90s. And my dad, who loves music, he was very resistant to the stuff I was listening to, and now the time has passed. There's all kind of stuff '90s music I can turn him on to that he's like, oh yeah, like even you know my favorite album, Trompe Le Monde, Pixies. Like me and him listened to that together. He's like, fuck yeah, it's badass. I'm like, yeah, man. Fugazi, just there's all kind of stuff that's just really good that he'd never heard. Early Kings of Leon, also a fan. Yeah, that's true, Carl. Shout out to Carl, by the way. Yeah, there's something to that Gen X music. Something to that. And that was the rise of that was the beginning of the full expression of just pop culture in general. Seems to me like that was I think Gen X was the first true pop culture generation. Like that's we grew up with, just we grew up in that environment of pop culture. Oh yeah, dude, I used to do that. Yeah, I used to do a lot of mixed, actually cassettes, a lot of mixed cassettes. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that was the whole thing for sure. Well, I've noticed almost every day I get real sick around this time. So, and I started a little earlier than what may be normal. So, I'm gonna, although it's not like shutting the stream off is gonna make me not feel sick, but it's almost time to eat again. That seems to help for whatever reason. Hey, there you go. Yeah, I was Mental Jewelry. I was big on that album before Throwing Copper came out. Wasn't a big U2 guy back then, though. Although Rattle and Hum, see, I would latch on to certain albums. Actually, Rattle and Hum is one of my favorite albums ever, also. Which I understand that it's got like 4 songs that are so famous they're really fucked out, but back then they weren't fucked out yet, and it's just a really good album, I think. Rattle and Hum, and that's the best version of Bullets Blue Sky as far as I'm concerned. It'll never be played better than that. I don't think. I think that's one of my favorite songs. And U2, obviously got their problems, but it's great. The band, they're Rolling Stones band of the '80s, for God's sake. There's something there. But my best friend, we were both into music and video games. He was a big U2 guy back then. He had all their CDs. Yeah, Depeche Mode. Oh yeah, Depeche Mode. Hell yeah. Yeah, that stuff holds up. See, yeah, there's so much music. No, I haven't. Whoever that is. Yeah, exactly. Bono is peak satanic. I agree, but Satan's got the best music. I've said before. I mean, I hate to say that. Or some of the best music. I hate to say it. And then Pearl Jam, a lot of people don't realize that 10, their album 10, it was released and it really didn't start selling for like a whole year. So I used to just read magazines, and if like an album looked interesting, I just bought it or shoplifted it. I did a lot of shoplifting back then. But I think I actually bought the cassette. That was right in that transition space for me, CDs versus cassettes. So like, um, the cassettes were, even if I had a CD player, which I probably did by then, the cassettes were, which I know I did actually, cassettes were still less expensive. So I bought it like the day it came out. I went to my record store, my local. I went to the mall and bought 10 on cassette like the day it dropped. And a lot of people don't realize that didn't really get popular for like a whole year. It was a great album for back then. In retrospect, I'm not a big Pearl Jam guy, honestly, but it was great. It was great in its time. And Alice in Chains is my favorite band. If anybody's cared, my favorite. Although back then my favorite band was Fugazi. That's who my late teens going into, well, not late teens, but yeah, late teen years going into college. Fugazi, that was my favorite band at the time. Oh Jesus, yeah, all those yeah, exactly, the sunglasses. Yeah, Jack Nicholson, Bono, Birdman. That's hilarious. Yeah. I never liked sunglasses, man. Like sunglasses indoors was such a weird thing. It's now normalized, but yeah, I always been bothered. I just don't like sunglasses. I never wear sunglasses. I don't like sunglasses in general. Yeah, Silverchair, they were big over here. Yeah, they had some good songs. Oh yeah, I've heard all of that stuff. Yeah, that's a good stuff, man. I wouldn't say it's great, but it's good music. That was pretty big here in the states, and like Kings of Leon, their early stuff, they were young also, and they were big in Australia apparently. Bigger over there than they were over here for whatever reason. I don't like their later stuff too much. Got a little too commercial for me, but well, see, and truth, this is interesting because I know about the glasses and the UV blocking, and my first pair of glasses that I wore every day, I made sure they tried to sell me on at Target Optical. They wanted to put a coating on them, and I was like, I don't want that UV bullshit. but these are UV coated, and I don't think that's it's not it didn't cause my decline in my health, but I think it contributed. I really do. And then driving this truck, the windshield blocks the UV also. Yeah, we need UV in our eyes. Absolutely, without question. Yeah, UV is a thing for sure. And in fact, I like, especially in the morning time. I've been doing this for years. I take well now I take my glasses off and look at the sun, but before I didn't used to wear glasses, but I did quite a bit of looking directly at the sun, especially when I was living outdoors. I was just out in the sun a lot. There's something to that, sure. And truck driving is not it's not a healthy lifestyle. It's just not. Man, but I like the money in my account. I got I got my savings now, and then I got enough money. Probably when I get paid next week, I'll probably, although that may not be a very big check either, but I'll probably go and buy me a computer. Yep, exactly. Blocking out the sun. Oh, I still got more coffee. Don't I? Hell yeah. Well, I'm not going to shut the stream down while there's coffee. That would be uncivilized. What's up, Tranquil Vortex? Good to see you. I got all my woman bashing out of my system before you showed up, so that's good. And tongue in cheek, woman bashing. Yeah, that's true. No, the sun is the best thing for us. And in fact, when I talk about that, I almost died and all this, which is I really did. But I'll tell you what, other than the baking soda and water mixture reversing my metabolic acidosis and just rest itself, the number one healing element was I was out in the sun a lot. I'm convinced that had played a huge part in me turning it around, at least turning it around to be able to go back to work and live a somewhat normal life. Anyway, oh, this is way better. Yeah, the 8 o'clock coffee is okay, but it's got a real chemical taste to it. It's not bad, but yeah, this is I can tell this is much better. But I fucked up and it's ground. I want whole bean coffee, so it's way more expensive. It's like probably more than twice as expensive. Yes, it's good stuff. So good, in fact, I think maybe it's stirring up some of my. I think maybe it's stirring up some of what's going on in my midsection right now, in a good way, but kind of that it's like when you're on the mend, you sometimes you feel worse initially. I think it might be one of those things. Who knows? Yeah, I want to get into the roasting at some point. Now, I don't want my truck to smell like that. But yeah, I would like to be able to do that. Get stemmed. Yeah. And the 8 o'clock, that's more of just something I can just get at Walmart. You know, I actually my normal brand I get on Amazon. It's 10% Kona beans mixed with just regular old, I guess, South American. But it's a good man. It's a good mixture. I forget the brand name, but I don't know. Every time I try to, my camera's not good enough to film my other phone, but I always try it. Anyway. Oh yeah. Oh, I thought I was actually going somewhere today. Phone's up front. How silly of me. How silly. See if I can find this. Actually, I don't even have the app on there. Fuck it. Two phones, by the way. Not a good idea. Not a good idea. Oh yeah, no, I noticed the numbers like doubled when I started going off about dating and relationship. Yeah, I know. I noticed. I noticed. Yeah, I love Ethiopian coffee. Yeah, love it. It's all Ethiopian though now, isn't it? Think about it. It's kind of all Ethiopian, but yeah. Yeah, I don't know what I did to Raz, but we ran him off somehow. I'm not really sure. I don't know what we did to him. But, sometimes that's part of my straight, my frank, straight talk, authenticity. Sometimes I say things that maybe it cuts a little too close to the bone for people. I don't know. But then I just tend to think everything's about me. So of course, if he's left, it's because of me, right? Yeah, Razvan. He's a trucker out of he drives a truck in the UK. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. We're not a yeah. We don't we bash the men just as much as we bash or more as we bash the women. Probably more actually. Yeah. Yep. And many of us probably are misanthropic. I'm pretty sure DGW is. We don't know. We haven't talked to him. He's probably not okay. He really didn't seem okay when he was here before, to be honest with you, in my opinion. Yeah, he's got these weird relationships with EBT and Drew, but then at a certain point he was like still hating Drew, but then he was sort of warming up to EBT. But it seemed to be based on how I was interacting with. It's very strange. I think he's had something socially. He's not something weird with him socially. Is that Aussie talk? Yeah. Bloody oath, mate. I don't know what the Australians are talking about, which is part of the fun. Yeah, maybe he got a girlfriend. That's true. Yeah, I'm one of those guys historically that yeah, I would you wouldn't see me for a while, especially when I first met. But that was more in my younger days. So yeah, yeah, maybe he got a girlfriend. Very possible. Very possible. Well, he's Razvan is he's from Romania, which I thought they were good at subjugating the women. What happened? I don't know what happened to old Razvan. I might actually throw up here. This is not good. Or maybe it is good. I don't know. I haven't dry heaved in a while. Oh, good times, y'all. Good times. Well, I am dying. Let's not forget that. Oh, fucking hey, dude. No bueno. Oh, no freaking bueno. Yep, exactly. Yeah, I used to be very resistant to vomiting. I would more or less refuse to vomit as a young person. And finally, I figured out you're just way better off getting it out. But anyway, and the boozing, at a certain point, that helped normalize me to purging, as it were. Huh. Yeah, snakes are good for that, right? Hmm. I think that may be the case, actually, Frankel Vortex. Which actually the gallbladder stores bile, but I know what you're saying. But then we also get into, this could actually be better in the long run because I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing if I feel sick in the short term. Because overall, I feel pretty fucking good. The main thing for me is my energy levels. Like I'm just done by like around noon. It's a wrap. No, I threw dry heaves, man. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, we dry heaved. Yeah. I don't think I've actually It's been a while I actually threw up. But yeah, this something about this coffee. I can tell it's real. It's there's more to it. You know, it's some kind of fancy fucking grown at altitude in Costa Rica or some shit. You know, shade grown in the mountains at altitude above sea level in the cherries. Preserve maximum concentration of compelling flavor. So yeah, it's probably just got way more fucking whatever in it, whatever that is. Well, see, and this is Britt. I think this is great what you're doing here, but I want you to realize, and shout out to Britt, that none of this advice is for me. But you can absolutely give advice to the chat because I start every day. See this tumbler? I start this tumbler with, I put the juice of a whole lemon in one tumbler, and then in the other tumbler goes a teaspoon of baking soda, and then 12 ounces of water in this glass, 12 ounces, well, more like 14 ounces of water in both. I drink. That's the first thing I do every day, and I don't always do the baking soda because you can't necessarily just take baking soda every day because of the balance in the body, and then eventually it's like, oh, why am I having heartburn? Oh, my stomach acid's all fucked off because you actually need some acid, right? But the chances are anything you suggest, I'm already doing it. Very high probability. Just so you know. Just so you know. I start the day with Swedish herbal bitters, a teaspoon of baking soda and water, and then a whole lemon. And this is my lemon for tomorrow. I've already taken it out of the fridge. And I've done a lemon a day for years. And in fact, part of when I got real sick, I noticed when I started daily drinking, a lot of my good habits fell by the wayside. Surprise, surprise. But chances are and I spend, by the way, Britt, and this is nothing against you personally, just so you know, I spend $150 to $200 every week on herbs and supplements. So I'm not even kidding. Like literally, probably closer to 200 per week on herbs and supplements. And if you want, I'll give you a tour of the herbs and supplements real quick. Quick tour. All right. If you can see, that's nothing but herbs and supplements. Boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes. And there's more other places. That's more or less what I take on a regular basis. All of that. For example, tinctures. Yeah. So, yeah. I'm pretty much doing everything possible for my quality of life. Just about everything I could possibly do. Oh, awesome! Yeah. Well, and then this is wild lettuce, and then this is Humana Pinta, cat's claw, Chanca Piedra, which I'm sure I'm mispronouncing, and nettle, and dandelion root, leaf, and flower. And that expensive, by the way. I concocted that myself. That shit ain't cheap. That's like $70 just for all of that. I ain't fucking around here. Yeah. Yeah. We ain't and probably something else in there I can't even remember right now. Yeah. We ain't fucking around. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I love Benton loves some Benton, I can assure you. I got no problem. That's part of this truck driving. I make enough money that I can buy what I need to buy. So oh, and I'm on like $100 a month just in digestive enzymes, by the way. Because I've got issues with my pancreas, so I have to take digestive enzymes or I get sick. So I got the good shit digestive enzymes. So I got this here, and then I got this here. I take one of each, with all of my 4 main meals every day. So 4 each of these every day. And then when I can handle it, I add this in with this. This is just lipase. I throw that in, and then I take this with my fruit. I take 2 of these with my fruit when I eat. I don't necessarily eat fruit every day because I have gout, so I can't necessarily eat a gang of fruit every day. Yeah. Oh yeah. I ain't fucking around with the supplements. Well, I mean, I have to. That's the thing is, I almost died. Like I have very serious issues, so yeah, I have to. I was in stage 4 kidney failure not long ago, and if I had gone to the doctors, they would have put me on dialysis. I'm never going on dialysis, but I just somehow knew to take. I knew I was in metabolic acidosis, and I was like, okay, baking soda. Oh, my kidneys they make bicarbonate, so okay, sodium bicarbonate in water. Bam. This is not complicated. Oh, I was losing my shit, Woody. I was having issues and losing my shit. Yeah, I was having trouble functioning in society. Yeah, yeah. And I knew to become intro. I knew that the solutions were in here, not out there. Yeah. But thanks, Britt. Yeah. But yeah, good to see EBT in the house. But yeah, it's a lot can be done with herbs. That's for sure. Yeah, a lot can be done with the old herbs. And in fact, it's so expensive. I've started, doing my own concoction. Well, I buy the dry herb, and I actually here in the truck I have, I'll get like a liter and a half of vodka. And fucking mix that shit up in a big mason jar. Let it sit for 2 weeks or whatever. That's what this is. These are. Oh, and this too. Don't for, let's not forget the fulvic slash humic acid. Right. Let's not forget that. And a whole gallon of that. That's what these. I got a bunch of these little bottles. Well, that's empty. Oh yeah. Got a bunch of these little bottles here. This is that's the bitter herbs custom that I've made myself here, or what extracted, whatever you would say. Well, but they haven't banned baking soda. That baking soda kept me off of dialysis, or kept me from dying, and the medical system would have hooked me up to a machine. I'm probably at about CKD, chronic kidney disease. I'm probably at stage 2, which, dude, most of the fucking populace is at stage 2, I would say. So, like, my kidneys work. What's up? Music holds a secret. Good to see you, sir. Somebody complimented my sir, so now I'm a little in my head about my sir. But and I do appreciate the health advice. It's just it annoys me because it's like, you know, I don't know. It just annoys me sometimes because I guess because I was really when I was very now that I'm not as sick, it doesn't annoy me as much. But when I was like really really ill, I was on the discords. Like everybody I told about it just wanted to try to give me health advice. Which is like what really? Which I understand that comes from a good place, but it's like, dude, I'm sick as a dog. I'm on the verge of death, and I have to listen to health advice. Like what? Why? But yeah, obviously the system doesn't want people knowing that they can drink, you know, baking soda and water. But then part of that also is I don't, I can't eat any fucking processed foods or I'm sick for 2 days. I can't eat any junk food or I'm literally sick for 2 days. Like literally. Anyway, enough about me. How are y'all? Ben's talking about himself again. Amazing. That never happens. Hmm. Anyway, I guess that's enough out of me. 2 hours, that's good enough. Thanks for watching. Bye.